I'd like to welcome you to this North Carolina mountain lake house that I designed with Raleigh architect Tina Govan. It beautifully illustrates many of the not-so-big design principles, and though it may not look like your first notion of not so big, this is a house that's built better rather than bigger and focused on quality over quantity. What I want to do today is take you through and introduce you to some of the principles of building in a not-so-big way that will really make your house into home. One of the things that most people don't completely grasp about not so big is that I'm not talking about small houses. Paradoxically, not so big is not really about the size, but about the quality, the character, and livability. So the one characteristic of a not so big house that's absolutely crucial is that every square foot be in use every day. Let's start with the process of entering. When you enter a house, it's a really important act. You're moving from the outside world and the person you are on the outside, a much more public character, to the inside of the house where you're much more private. And so that transition between inside and outside really sets the stage for your experience of the whole house. When most people think of an entry, they just think of the front door. And certainly the front door is important, but it's just one tiny piece. It's the membrane between inside and outside. So when I think about designing a front entry, I'm looking at both the outside and what the house does to welcome you, and then what you feel like when you step in, how you're welcomed into the house. The first indoor principle we'll look at is light to walk toward. Most of us associate this phrase with a near-death experience, but in fact, we humans are physiologically programmed to move toward light. In this home, you'll see there's a bright light source at both ends of the long vista through the house that helps to draw you in. One of the key ideas that makes a not-so-big house feel larger than it actually is what I call ceiling height variety. By that, I mean making a number of different ceiling heights to create a hierarchy of spaces from very intimate to very open. And the way that we do this in this house is that you'll notice above the trim line, there's a dropped ceiling. In this case, it's a floating shelf that goes around the whole room. And you'll notice that spaces fall below that line and have a lower ceiling. So the corner windows have lower ceilings, and then the western alcove has a higher ceiling that still coordinates with that line. So it allows us to create a shaping of space and a variety of intimacies of space. So the corner window spaces are very intimate, but they look out into this larger, beautiful space that gives a sense of spaciousness. Take away those ceilings, and it all feels like one big great room, and it's undifferentiated and not nearly as interesting. Of course, windows are a really important part of every house. We all understand that it's bringing in light, and it's also connecting us to the view. But how those windows are placed can make a huge difference in how the house feels. So if you place a window, for example, in the middle of a wall, you've got dark area on either side of the window. But if you move a window right adjacent to a perpendicular wall, as you can see here, that perpendicular wall serves as a reflector, and it bounces light into the room. You can use an archetypal form, and it can have a real power to it. A circle is an archetypal form. Here we've used that circle as a kind of sacred view to the lake. Especially in the fall, when the leaves are turning, that view is astounding. Another key principle of not-so-big house design is to make rarely used spaces do double duty. Rather than build two separate dining areas, in this house we built one room and designed a table that can transform from everyday functions such as breakfast and lake gazing to formal dining room simply by pushing the two smaller tables together. And from the table, you also have a delightful connecting view into the living room. So here on the back terrace, you can start to see how all these indoor and outdoor spaces start to weave together. In fact, this weaving of indoors and outdoors is a key principle of this home. You can open up the doors on both sides of the breezeway and lower the screens to create an outdoor hallway. So with both bifold doors open, you end up with this wonderful configuration where you can either walk from the front yard all the way through to the back terrace if the screens are open, or with the screens closed, you have a nice breezy middle of the house that helps to naturally ventilate the whole home. It also allows the view from the front garden to the lake, so it gives a wonderful overall inside-outside connection. So in a nutshell, a not-so-big house is better rather than bigger. It's focused on quality rather than quantity. It's designed for the way we really live as opposed to the way that we imagine we're supposed to be living formally and with impressing people that are going to be coming over. That's not what living is all about. We're designing for you. This house needs to be for you. A not-so-big house is smaller but better. It has a focus on quality over quantity. And that's true with a not-so-big life also. So often in our lives today, we're so busy that we forget what life is all about. So we're always in our heads and we're always thinking about what we've got to do next, or we're worrying about what we just did. There's a real necessity in our lives today to understand that the importance of life is in the moment. The real meaning is in the moment. And so creating a place that allows you to pause, allows you to enjoy the natural surroundings, allows you to enjoy just the simple everyday acts of living, that's the place that really feels like home. So it's both the place, the location, in this case the house, but it's also how you are in that place. And so not so big living is trying to help people understand how to slow down enough to recognize what really matters. There's a series of 9 books that describe everything you need to know to make your own house and your own life not so big.